Taylor Hodges here for another Just a Bulldog Minute, and by this time next week, some of the biggest changes to affect the college football landscape since the original conference realignment dominoes began to fall nearly 15 years ago will be in full effect. Oklahoma and Texas will be a part of the SEC. SMU, Stanford, and Cal will be in the ACC. USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington will be in the Big 12. Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah will be a part of the Big 12. And the Pac 12 will become the Pac 2. And I find myself thinking back to the last round of major realignments, the one that saw Texas A&M and Missouri join the SEC, and I specifically remember hearing the term super conferences for the first time. Now, remember, all these changes took place before the implementation of the playoff, and NIL was just a random grouping of letters. But part of the topic with super conferences did include the implementation of a playoff system. But overall, the general idea was that the major college football teams would all join one or two super conferences, and the season and postseason would follow something similar to the NFL. Now, of course, this was all speculation at the time, and people making predictions about what the future will hold. But the round numbers, or the numbers I most remember, are one or two conferences with 32 teams each, 64 teams total. There's a playoff. We have a champion. At the time, some of the talking heads said that this was inevitable. Others said that the others were overreacting. But are we not on the path to super conferences? Let's do the math real quick. The ACC will be at 17 teams. The Big 10 will be at 18. The SEC will be at 16, as will the Big 12 at 16. So, in all, that's 67 teams right there. And while the topic of today's video isn't going to be picking, what are the three schools that don't belong? Because, while that would be fun and I could do it, the problems come from who we're going to leave out of the 64. And I really circle back to a couple things, are we really going to leave out the service academies? Army, Navy, Air Force? Are we really going to leave out those schools? Well, but what about a team like Appalachian State? Appalachian State has two of the biggest upsets in college football history. Or Boise State, who has maybe the biggest upset in college football history against Oklahoma. Or any of these other smaller schools, Florida Atlantic, as an example, that they have their year in the spotlight, and they compete. They're in the conversation. They make the playoff, the 14 playoff. Are we really going to leave all of those out? So those are the kinds of questions we are facing. Look, we're headed to a college football world with at most a couple or at most 4 super conferences. The question now is, what is that going to look like? How the NIL evolves from here will surely play a major role in that, but that's also the playoff is going to change. It's changing right now from 4 to 12 teams, but folks, that number is going to grow. That's just the path we're headed on, and my concern mostly is about what the other conferences. What's going to happen with the Conference USAs, the Mountain Wests of the world? Will they be included in whatever playoff system or format is created? So that, plus who knows what's going to happen with the wild, wild west that is the NIL. There are a lot of questions that need to be answered, and it's taken us 15 years to get from Texas A&M leaving the Big 12 to join the SEC. And now it's 15 years, and now Texas is joining the SEC along with Oklahoma, who both of those schools flirted with joining the SEC 15 years ago. We're on the path, folks. It's just going to take some time. So where are we headed? What are some format ideas? What's the landscape going to look like? I'm sure you have your own ideas. I have my own ideas, and I'm going to save those for the next video. Until then, y'all have a great day, and if you live here in Mississippi like I do, try and stay cool. I know that's an impossible task.